again. I'm the founder of Visionary Sessions and a Visionary Guide. So I guide visionaries to gain clarity on their vision for humanity, tell an inspiring story, and engage the awakened leadership skills required to lead a global movement. So what I'm going to talk about today is more the application of how you can create this more united approach to business from the inside. So obviously, business is made up of individuals. So I really like to focus on leadership because I feel that if you can get the leaders to really agree and tune into being more awake in themselves, then that's how you're going to create a more awakened and united business. And that's how the business is going to create more unity on the planet. So I see that as the starting point. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because over the past 15 years, 17 years, I've been working as a marketing strategist for a lot of visionaries, helping tell their story, grow their company. And over the last few years, I've been particularly focused on conscious businesses, social enterprises. And what I found is that even though we may switch the focus of our business to be more focused on purpose rather than profit, and come up with a really good model of how we can change the world through our particular business or change a specific structure or part of society. If we are still carrying the old paradigm of business in the structure and our leadership, then it's going to be really hard to achieve that purpose and that goal. So in other words, the business is going to be limited as to its potential and the impact it can create, unless the internal structures and the leadership is actually, you could say, dismantled and recreated. And I say that because, especially since March 2020, there's been such a shift on the planet that what used to work in the past is no longer going to work because it's just not in alignment. And it doesn't mean that that's wrong or that it was wrong. It just means that there's a shift, and it's really important that we become more present and we tune into what is going to work now. You know, that we're constantly asking that question. And that could be in marketing, it could be culture, co-creation, leadership, finances, any part of business. I believe that right now it's really important for us to be open enough as conscious leaders and say to tune in first, number one. We can discuss different ways of doing that. And just to say, all right, like what wants to take place right now that's going to benefit the good of all, that is going to create more unity, and actually be open to asking that question, hearing the answers, and then taking action. So I believe that that's fundamentally what's needed within business for business to become this united, powerful force for good. And Jeff obviously introduced a lot of different structures and models and ways that people are infusing this unity and consciousness in there. And I believe that ultimately, unless the leaders are showing up in a certain way, in a more awakened way, then even these really good models and ideas won't be taking the full effect that they can, if that makes sense to everybody. So again, I just want to say that I believe that the structures of business need to be recreated, and that's happening right now. It's happening in real time. So there are definitely some insights from the past that we can look at and tune into and see if they're still relevant and expand upon them and allow them to grow. As I said, open sourcing is a really good way to do things, where instead of appearing as an expert and saying this model is the right way and that's the best model and, you know, this model's finite, I like to say that it's good to present a download or an insight that you're getting and open it up to other people, allow them to tune in, and then they can contribute to it. And also for models, I believe it's important to tune in and see if they're still relevant. So what worked last year as a model may not be relevant right now. If there's 5 parts of a model, maybe now there needs to be 6. And I do that all the time. So I have a session called The Blueprint that I've been doing for a few years, where I tune into the intelligence of an organization and I ask questions that allow you to build the foundation of your company. So why you exist, how you're supporting your purpose, who you're serving. And that model has proved to be amazing, where I was able to really predict what the purpose of not only the company was, but also the visionary for the next 20 years, like what their vision for humanity is and what they're actually, their mission is on the planet. I was able to get all of that information. So even that model, I'm constantly tuning in and I'm going, are these still the right questions? Is this still the right structure? Is this still the right cost? The pricing of it. So that's something to keep in mind, that we always really need to assess whether something that's worked before is still working. So what I want to do is I want to share my screen and share a couple of slides with you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so can everybody see the slide that says nature? Yeah, okay, so I'm actually going to go back here. So what I found is that a conscious company, a conscious leader, a business that has a really good intention about changing the world. And as I said, I was able to use the blueprint model to really define and get clear on how they were changing the world and what practices and principles they would use. So what I found was that with a good intention, if you're operating in the current and the old business model, so this is what I identified as the 4 primary energetic forces, you could say, of what business was made up of: fear, scarcity, profit first, and self-gain. So no matter how good your intentions, if you're still operating from this old model, you're not going to be able to achieve the impact that you want to achieve. So there's going to be blocks and walls. And I saw this happen a lot, which is why I knew that I also needed to focus on leadership and not just on marketing and storytelling. So then I identified, well, what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of fear? It's love. What's the opposite of scarcity? Abundance. Actually, I can put them side by side. What's the opposite of profit first in a way that is destructive and ignorant? It's awareness. What's the opposite of looking at a business as what can we get, how can we grow, making the we about the business? It's where you take a more collective we approach, where the we is about everybody on the planet, the animals, the environment. So you're taking a more connected approach. So this is what I've been calling over the past few years the 4 heart-driven premises. So this is an example of more of an energetic shift that you can take in your business, where if you feel that there's energies that are coming from scarcity, which is quite easy to identify because that could be when you're looking at others as competition or when you feel that there's not enough, then this model is good to use so you can rebalance your energy and go, all right, I'm going to focus. I can feel that I'm in scarcity, so I'm going to move over to abundance. And it's the same with anything on the left. It's a good way to create that awareness and then shift it over to what's on the right. So I'm going to share with you now my vision for humanity. So I like to talk about this a lot, that when you're a visionary, to have a future state vision of humanity, how you see it operating in a more united way. And the vision also has a pathway of achieving that. So it's not just I see X happening, it's I see X happening and being achieved through X. So my vision for humanity sees a new wave of leaders creating evolutionary impact through business by embracing awakened change. So I wanted to break that down for a moment. So what do I mean by evolutionary impact? It's a big word, right? 2 big words. Essentially, it means that whatever these leaders are creating are a new way of being and operating in society, based on unity, connection, and increased awareness of who we are and what our role is as humans. So that's what I mean by evolutionary impact. So it really is a new way of coexisting and expressing and being. And when I say through business, obviously we've discussed that business is one of the most powerful forces on the planet. And it seems that Humanity's team is saying that it is the most powerful force. So wherever you stand on that. So that's why I believe that business is a vehicle that can really create this evolutionary impact. So I say new wave of leaders. So why am I saying new wave? And I'm not just saying leaders, because there's a lot of amazing leaders out there already. So the reason I say new wave is because we're creating a new style of leadership, a style that has never been seen before. So that makes it new. And how are we creating that? As I said, we're creating it in this moment. So we're tuning in what needs to be brought forth. How can we show up in a more awakened and connected way? How can we show up in service? So it's really taking a different perspective, you could say, a perspective that's not limited to separation, a perspective that's focused on connection, oneness, all of these words that we hear a lot that can be interchangeable. And a big thing about this new wave of leaders is they understand the self-responsibility they have of first awakening themselves, and that this awakening applies to being awake in life, business and leadership. So it's not separate. You can't say that, all right, I'm going to be an awakened leader and just show up awakened when I'm in leadership but not at home, or just in business and not at home, or just at home and not in business. So it's about being in that state all the time and committing to it and making that really a priority. So that's why I say self-responsibility is what these new leaders have. And then I'm saying embracing awakened change. So that in itself is evolving. What does that expression look like? How does that apply to business? How does that apply to leadership? I'm going to share with you a few things that recently came through. They came through in many different formats. I'm writing a book on leadership based on the Mayans. So looking at the ancient civilization of the Mayans and tuning into some of their insights and what really made them such a great civilization. So the model that I'm about to show you has come through in different formats of what I'm calling being in a state of expanded consciousness. So awakened leadership basically has these 5 principles involved with it: nature, love, service, heart, and embodiment. So you can also say awakened leadership involves leading through nature, leading through love, leading through service, leading through heart, and leading through embodiment. So I'm going to briefly just show you what I mean by this. So leading through nature essentially means having a relationship and a two-way communication with nature, where you tune into nature, you tune into its perfection, its wisdom, and apply that into your leadership, apply that into your business, apply that into your life. So it really is an amazing portal, you could say, of consciousness by building this relationship with nature. So I feel that that's come through as the first step for leadership. It's somewhere that we can always go. We can go to easily, even if we're inside. You know, when I was living in Melbourne, in the city, I used to have fantasies that I was in a forest with trees. So because it was hard for me to get there, I just closed my eyes and I pretended that I was surrounded by trees. So whether you're there or not, we all have experience of nature that we can bring to wherever we are in that moment. So I believe that it's important that the leader prioritizes an ongoing relationship to nature in order to gain deeper planetary insights, and also embrace divine timing, and knowing that the decisions that are made through the communication with nature benefit all, so they benefit the collective. So leading through love, what does that mean? Well, love's the blueprint of everything that's in existence. So when we infuse love into our leadership, I like to use the word infuse because we're embodying it we're drawing it in ourselves, and then we're allowing it to be expressed outside of us. So love has the power to rise and awaken everything into its full potential. Love brings light into places where there's darkness. So leading with love really allows you to show up in a more fully realized way as both an individual in leadership and also the business. Leading through service is a big one, and I've been playing around with that a lot myself. So this is where you essentially get rid of needs, okay? So you get rid of this construct that you have of who you are and why you're so important and what you need, and you just drop it all and you just say, I'm showing up in service, show me. And who you're asking, you know, it could be spirit, your higher self, consciousness, whatever word you want to use. But it's essentially transcending the ego and opening up to a higher viewpoint. So whenever I've said, show me how I can be of service, that's when I've been able to create new companies or new offerings or align with other businesses and actually do more than I could have done if I just was using my mind or my construct or definition of who I thought I was and why I was here. So it really opens you up to a more expansive view, and it clears a pathway. It allows you to align to the pathway of least resistance, I find as well. So things go more smoothly. Doesn't mean that it's not going to be uncomfortable, because there's going to be things that come up that you need to learn. But it really is about showing up and being open. Leading through heart. This is a topic that I've been talking about for many years, mostly in the form of intuition. But in here, in this context, I want to expand it out to say that the way of the heart is also opening yourself up to lead with joy, passion, connection, you know, all of the feelings of the heart when you're in the open and expanded place. So intuition is definitely infused into it, but I really want to highlight the word joy and passion. Like, imagine if we were leading from that place, if we weren't having all these constrictions and have tos and shoulds and needs, if we could just get rid of that and just follow this joy and this beauty and this expansion that exists within us. And the last one is embodiment. So I mentioned that before, that for every visionary, it's important that you're not only talking about the vision of a more united and awakened humanity, but you're actually being it. So people can feel it when they speak to you. They can feel it through your words, okay? Because I'm a storyteller. That's part of what I do in marketing. And I really feel that a good story and finely crafted words is not going to work anymore if the energy and the embodiment behind those words is not there. And that could be through the leader, through the business. And I'm sure we've all experienced that firsthand, where I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So I'm sure we've all experienced firsthand where you go to a website or you read about a company and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. And that's a cause that I really believe in. And then, you know, you go into further contact with that organization, and it could be as an employee, or it could be as a contractor or a participant. And then you just feel that something's off. So the energy doesn't match the words and the story that they are bringing out to the world. Has anyone had that experience? If you want to nod your head. So I feel that embodiment is really vital. So that is the fifth part of awakened leadership. So thank you for letting me share that.